Donna from our sales team and Ashish. And we are just really excited to welcome you to the Rapid Process Automation Starter Kit webinar. We wanted to share with you some tips that we have discovered from working with customers to get their paper processes automated with a rapid turnaround time, which is especially important right now as we all transition to remote work. So we're going to go with a quick overview of transitioning to paper processes to digital automated processes, what that means for you. And then I'm going to do a demonstration with some examples of how you can use templates, which are pre-built forms, to do this very quickly for your own company or school. And then finally, we'll take some questions. So if you have questions at any time, you're welcome to put them into the questions panel in your GoToWebinar little pop-up on your screen. And our staff will answer them as we go, and then we'll pause periodically and we'll answer questions as a group as well. So the, one thing that we hear a lot from our customers is that we have all these paper processes or email-based processes, and we want to automate them, but they're on the back burner for one reason or another. The time is never right, or they just don't float to the top as priorities, or you worry that it's going to take too long to do the implementation process of automating these processes. So one thing that the work from home mandate has kind of surfaced for us is that these back burner automation tasks are actually becoming a priority now. So hopefully you will, like this graphic, your desk will go from piles of paper and binders to a really nice Zen home workspace, because you're able to finally prioritize getting some of those paper and email processes automated for your company. And we're going to show you, we do at frevvo know that time is of the essence. So we're going to show you how you can do that very quickly. It doesn't have to take weeks and weeks of time to develop automated forms and workflows. So in our client services team, when we're doing a project for a customer, we always start with a discovery phase. So if you're ready to automate a process, you want to ask yourself a few questions just to kind of get a foundation that you can build upon. The first thing that you ask is, what is the pain point that I'm trying to solve? We hear from customers a lot that a pain point of paper processes, paper forms, is that they just get filled out incompletely. People skip fields, or they spell things wrong, or they forget to sign it, or all the problems that come along with that. And that results in a lot of time spent back and forth trying to get the right information so that you can process that data. So if that was your particular pain point, you might go into this process knowing that you're looking for field validation. You would want some fields to be required. You may want to show and hide some fields based on other fields. For example, if you click opt into direct deposit, your direct deposit fields will appear and become required. You also could use selection controls like a drop down for commonly used options, so that you don't have to worry about people spelling things wrong or using different abbreviations. And then your submission data on the other end is very clean and consistent, so that you can sort and filter and run reports on it. The next thing you can think about is, how are you going to engage your team? How will your team access these processes? Will they be a form embedded in your website? Maybe you'll use a portal like the Frevvo Spaces feature, so that your team can access all of their forms and workflows in one handy space. Think about whether your team will be typically accessing your forms from a desktop or a mobile device. Frevvo offers responsive forms that look great on tablets and phone as well as desktop. And then also, if you're designing a workflow, think about what team members need to be involved, who needs to see and edit the forms and the submissions, and how you want to route those tasks to the different team members. And then finally, consider how you're going to use the data on the submission end. Do you want to use Frevvo's submission repository, which offers great search and filter tools. You can also from there download and take a lot of actions on your submissions. Or do you need to integrate with a system that you already have, like a database or a file system? Maybe you even want to send your submissions over to Google Drive so that they can have shared access. So thinking about all those things up front is going to give you a foundation to move forward with your automated process. So how can frevvo help? We can help in a lot of ways. The frevvo has a really nice visual drag and drop form designer tool. So you don't have to have any technical experience. In fact, I came to frevvo from a background of 10 years in the nonprofit sector. I had no software or technology background, and I find it very accessible and easy to use and learn this tool. In addition, frevvo offers you custom access control and sharing. So you can really customize to a very detailed level who has access to your forms and flows, who can edit them, who can view or edit the submissions of your forms and workflows. So you can really tailor that down and get the same level of security, if not better, than you had on paper and email processes. And finally, frevvo offers a really wide breadth of integration tools. We have a database connector. We have a file system connector, so you can save your submissions down to your file system. Our Google connector both allows saving to a Google Drive and pushing form data to a Google Sheet, where you can then run reports and create cool charts and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of integration options. And maybe the most important one I want to share with you today is that when you're designing a form and flow, when you're trying to automate one of those processes that has been sitting on the back burner, you do not have to start from scratch with a blank designer canvas wondering, where do I go from here? You can use one of our pre-built templates. And frevvo offers a number of these templates, which are basically forms and workflows that are tried and true processes. They're already designed to look very nice on tablets and mobile. They have all the controls and custom logic that you would need to make them functional and effective workflows. And all you really have to do on your end is add your logo and maybe a few small customizations for your business requirements. So this is a great way to take your design time and the actual process of getting into automation down to less than a week, hours, maybe even less than hours. So I'm going to show you a few examples of some templates that our customers are using right now, and then I'll also go over with you where you can find all of our different templates so you can see which ones might help with your business processes. So I'm going to pop out of our slide deck for a moment and over into my designer home on app.frevvo.com. The first template that I want to show you was actually provided to us by one of our higher education customers. So this college wanted to provide financial reimbursement to students who were on financial aid and had to travel home to quarantine. And of course, this just happened in the last few weeks. It was all very unexpected, and it's not the kind of thing they normally reimburse. So they quickly spun up a form and they shared it with us so that it could help other customers who might be in a similar situation. So this is an emergency travel reimbursement request form. It's actually a very simple form. And in the template, you'll see we have a message control that explains how you can customize it. Then it has a message control, which explains the reimbursement policy. And finally, just a few input controls where it's going to grab the student's information, their expense information, and any receipts or documentation that they might have. So one thing that we did to make this template really easy to use is we've provided a section of hidden controls here. So if you were going to use this template, you would change my example school to your school name. So we'll say, frevvo University. And you can also change your website, the max reimbursement amount if your policy differs from the generic one here, and of course the IRS mileage rate, which doesn't change often, but it certainly could. And what happens is all you have to do is type that information in once, and it's going to automatically update this message control. Wherever you see school, organization, or any other control name inside the curly brackets, what that will do is at runtime, it will use the value of that control so that you only have to change that information in one simple place. You don't have to worry about coming into this message control and looking at the HTML. All you do is change it in the hidden control, and it's going to change everywhere else. And those actually are used as well in some of the form and doc actions. So again, it makes it very easy to customize this form. So let's go ahead and try this form out so you can see it in use mode. So you can see that the message that with the instructions is a hidden control. We don't see that here. And wherever we put frevvo University, it's showing up and it looks really nice in this policy message here. We've also got our reimbursement amount, our mileage, IRS mileage rate, all of that is in here. So then we have a business rule behind the scenes that's pulling in the logged in user's information. So we're also going to put in the student ID, and then the student can add type of expense. Now there's a business rule behind the scenes that says if the type of expense is car, make miles required. So then they can type in something like drove to the airport, and that was 65 miles. It's automatically going to calculate 65 times the IRS mileage rate to put the cost here. That business rule also says that if it's any other type besides car, then we don't need miles, that can be disabled, but we do require that they put in a cost. So they can say flew home, and maybe that ticket was $150. Then the business rule here totals the amount requested. They can add any other specific details that they need, and they can add files like their travel receipt. And then click submit. Now, this form is set up with a very simple doc action to email the school email that we've set up and to email the actual user herself. So let me actually show you where this comes in the email. There it is. So you can see we have a nice custom email here that includes templatized strings from our form and a PDF of the form itself so that she can have a record of that request. So pretty cool stuff. Now, other things that you might want to do with this form are you could pull this into a simple workflow. So the first step is filled out by the student, but the second step is filled out by the financial aid office, where they include the date and check number of the reimbursement. You could also connect this with a database connector or a file system connector to make sure that the data gets saved to your existing tools. Or you could pull it, connect it with our Google connector to a Google Sheet so that all of this form data is in a Google Sheet where the financial aid office can quickly access it. So a lot of cool options there. The next template that I want to show you was a request that we had from a K-12 school who had to rapidly transition to digital learning when schools got closed. It was all, as we know, very unexpected, so all this had to happen very quickly. And one of the prerequisites for using those digital tools is they had to have parent consent. Now, this particular school was fairly rural, so it was going to be very hard for them to, in any consistent way, get paper forms out to their parents and returned in a timely manner. So what we did is we used our Google Consent template and our COPA compliance template, and we pulled them into a simple screen flow. both of these steps, a screen flow means that both of these steps are filled out by the user. And we've basically done a screen flow because we expect that most parents will fill this out on a mobile device. So we didn't want them to have to scroll through a long vertical process. We wanted just two separate forms that they would fill one after the other. So we'll take a look inside these forms really quick, and then we'll see what they look like on a mobile device. This form is the G Suite consent. So we have a nice message from the superintendent that's visible. And then we have a collapsed section. And this is going to show all of the G Suite policies and FAQs. As you can see, it's pretty long. So we've collapsed it so that it doesn't take up a whole lot of space on the mobile view. But if the parent does have a question or need to look more closely at the policy, they can look at that. And then we just have some simple controls to gather the students' information. And we have a hidden control for school email, which is actually populated by a business rule, so that depending on what school they select, they will get the correct email of that school's point of contact, the school secretary. Okay, obviously they're all pointing to me for this demonstration. So the next form is a COPA compliance form, which is very similar, but they required separate signatures for G Suite and digital compliance. So this form also uses hidden controls like we saw on the emergency travel request, so that you can customize the policy statement without having to go in and look at the HTML and that message control. So for example, you could list whatever tools and sites your school is using, and those are going to automatically appear in the message control inside this list sites templatized string. So let's go ahead and we'll test this workflow just to see what it looks like on a mobile device. So one thing that's interesting about this particular customer is that they're planning to put the link to this form on Facebook. They have a very active Facebook page. So parents will pick up the link probably when they're scrolling through Facebook on their phone, and they'll see this on a mobile device. So I am going to look at it using the smartphone test view so I can make sure that I'm happy with the way it looks on a mobile device. So you can see our message from the superintendent is very clear. And then we have just some simple forms we can fill out. When we pick the school, behind the scenes, we're setting the address of the school secretary. Now, this is a text field for homeroom teacher. Another thing you could do with this form to make it even cleaner is set the selection of the homeroom teacher based on the selection of the school. So you would have a second drop down here instead of allowing people to type in where, you know, I might type Mrs. Brown and the next parent might type Ms. Brown and the next parent might type, you know, Tanisha Brown. This way, when you get the submission data, you could sort it by Mrs. Brown and it would be, you could run reports that way. So we'll pick a grade, and then because we're on a mobile device, they can sign using their finger right on the screen of their phone. The date automatically populates, and they just put in their name. When they click continue, they're going to see the COPA form. And what we've done here is you can see the policy information. And then we've automatically pulled over the student name and the parent name from the prior form, so it's less for them to fill out. They can click give permission. Or if they want to give permission, but only for certain sites, they can put in their exceptions down here, and then again, sign it with their finger. When this is done, it's going to send an email to the school email that we set, as well as the a copy, to the school email we sent, sorry. So we'll come over here and we'll see that we now have a nice customized email. And this has actually a very nice PDF that comes with it. It doesn't want to preview. There we go. So you can see that the PDF it generated has some nice page breaks set up. So this could easily be printed double-sided and added to the student's file. Now, other things that you could do with this template is, one thing I would definitely do is push the submission data to a Google Sheet. And that way I could share it with the different school secretaries, and they could really easily grab reports on that data and see which students had filled it out and which hadn't. So just some integration ideas there. And then the last template that I wanted to show you is a little more business related. This is an employee timesheet that can be filled out by remote employees. Now, this is actually a process that was a frevvo internal process. We have part-time staff and interns who have to account for their time. So we developed this ourselves, and then we've created a template for other customers to use based off of it. This is a workflow where the first step is filled out by the employee. The second step is filled out by the manager. And you'll notice over here in the task assignment that we have reviewer in curly braces. So that actually is set based on the supervisor of the user who filled out the timesheet. So it's dynamically routing to that user's manager. And then the payment step is assigned to the role of finance. So if you have more than one finance officer or they work part-time, whoever happens to be working at the time can pick that task up and perform it. So we'll look inside this timesheet really quick. This pulls in the logged in employee's information automatically. And then based on the date that they select, it's going to pick the correct pay period. Then they're going to be able to select a project code and a task and start filling out their time for each day of the week. And this table will allow them to add multiple rows. So if they worked on multiple projects on the same day, they can add those rows. And then we have another table down here, which consists of controls that total the columns above it. So the table in frevvo, even though it looks like a spreadsheet, does not function the way a spreadsheet does. It's really more of a repeat in a horizontal layout. So, but because this process of timesheets used to be done in Excel, people are used to seeing the total at the bottom of the column. So we just designed this form to look very similar to that. So let's test this. Actually, let's come out of here. I'm just gonna really quickly change the task assignments so that we can test this as a screen flow and not have to worry about checking email for every step. So simply by removing the task assignments, I'm creating a screen flow, and then we're going to test this form, or workflow, I should say. All right, so this has an instruction section that is collapsed. We don't want to take up extra space, but if the user needs it, they can open it. That automatically selected today's date and set the time pay period accordingly. But if I selected a different date, the pay period is going to change automatically. And this is all set by business rules. Then the user is going to select a task a project code. And based on what they select in project code, task is going to populate with a different dropdown. So they can type in how much time they spent on each project or each category. They can add a row if they worked on multiple projects. Having a little internet blip here, I think. There we go. And then you can see that this table down here totals each column for each day. So they can see how much time they're working on each day, and they will also see a grand total at the end. They can add any information that they want, sign this section. And of course, you would be able to customize project code and task based on ones that apply to your business or school. We submit that timesheet. Now this would email the reviewer and say you have a task on your task list, but in this case, I've set it up as a screen flow so I can see it right here on my test window. The manager approves and signs. And then this routes to the finance role. It would email everyone who had that finance role, and the first person who picks it up would lock that task, and she could pick the paid on date, the check number, and then complete the workflow. And then that's going to email a copy of the timesheet to the employee so that they have a record of it. So those are just some quick examples of things that customers have been using in this particular response to the virus and the work from home orders. But we have a lot of other web forms and templates that you can start from. So if you go to frevvo.com and under resources, click examples, you're going to get to this page. This shows you a number of different commonly used templates. And what's really cool about this page is it allows you to try them online. So if you click try online, it'll open this workflow in another tab. And just like I showed you with the timesheet, you can actually complete this form right here online and see how it routes to the manager and the finance department and all of that. You can see how the business rules automatically set dates and totals. This routes to the manager. Let's see, I think I have a good there. I can approve it, sign it, and finish it. So you can take a look at any of these different templates, try them online, and see if they have the features that you're looking for. This one in particular is really popular, the new employee onboarding. One thing that it does is it automatically maps the form data to the IRS W-4 and I-9 PDF forms. So in addition to coming out with your submission data with any integrations you have, you also can have these IRS forms that you can just send right off to the IRS without having to do any additional data entry. So it's really fantastic options there. Another way that you can find templates is on our support.frevvo.com site, which is here. So at support.frevvo.com, we have an article, View All Form and Workflow Templates. It's right on the homepage. And when you click that, you'll see an article that is basically a repository of all the form and workflow templates that you can find on the website, links to those, but also some additional ones that we have just published in the last few weeks as customers are requesting and needing quick, rapid implementation of different types of form and workflows. So keep an eye on that article, maybe star it so that you'll see when it's updated. We are updating that regularly. And then finally, if you are on the cloud version of Frevvo, from within your designer homepage, you can actually click Install a Pre-Built Template. And this is going to give you about 30 or 40 different pre-built templates. You can preview them right from here, or just go ahead and install them right into your tenant and start customizing. So it makes it really fast and easy for you to do that. All right. Now, one more thing you can do with templates is that you can actually create your own templates to share within your tenant. So let's say you are a school district and you want a standardized field trip permission form, but each of your individual schools will want to add their own logo, maybe their own drop-down with teacher names, that sort of thing. So at the school district level, this is a two-step process. Your designer will create and publish the field trip form. Then your tenant admin will go in and make that public so that your designers can see it. And then designers at each individual school will be able to find it right here in their installable templates add content action. So really easy to help standardize forms across your organization and just make designers' lives even a little bit easier. A quick customer success story, guys. We had a customer earlier this year who called us. They had just won a government contract to hire about 30 new employees, but the catch was they needed these workflows up and running in less than 2 weeks. So our client services team jumped into action. They gathered the customer's business requirements, and they realized that we could probably do this using some of our pre-built templates. So they chose 3 pre-built templates: employee onboarding, the expense report, and the timesheet I just showed you. And they customized them to add the branding and some other custom routing and control that the company wanted. And we were able to get them into production from the day they purchased to the day they went live in 10 days. So that was really quite a feat. And so what we did is we actually created this little chart for you. So we estimated how many hours the average designer would need to create, for example, an employee onboarding from scratch. Typically, that's about 25 to 60 hours, not including your discovery time and your testing time on either end. And that timeline could go 3 to 4 weeks or even longer, depending on how much back and forth you needed with testing. When you start with a template, you can reduce that design time to 10 hours or less, which could reasonably be done in less than a week, even a couple of days. So that's pretty amazing, time-saving option there. So definitely we recommend starting with templates whenever you're able to. A couple other quick tips. Frevvo has been a remote-enabled company from the beginning, and we know that a lot of other companies.
Megan, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Sure.
we're not seeing a screen. I'm not seeing the screen changing. It's still showing my projects.
Oh, I wonder if I paused this by accident. Here, let me. There you go. Can you see hot tips now?
Yes.
Okay, great. And I'll just go back to our little chart of the estimated timeline. Sorry about that pause. So there's your estimated hours to design these forms from scratch, how long that might take you in terms of timeline, and then your estimates if you started from a template. So again, a couple of lessons learned for companies that might still be in that transition process of getting into remote work. First, we always recommend that you mirror your automated processes off of your old digital processes. It can be really tempting to want to change things up as you're looking at efficiency and streamlining. But when you first go into production, it's really nice for your forms to look very similar to paper forms, or like the example of that timesheet, we made it look very similar to the Excel document people were used to seeing. And what that does is it eases the transition and helps your team embrace the new process, because the best automation is only as good as the people who will use it. So we want them to get in there, get comfortable using it, and then maybe your version 2, version 3 can include other additional changes to efficiency. You might also want to think about establishing communication guidelines. When you suddenly transition to remote work, email can blow up. You get a lot of those group emails where people are replying that don't necessarily need to be replies to the group, that sort of thing. So it's really nice to establish some protocols in your company. They'll be different for every company, but think about what communication should go by email, what communication is better on a messaging app like Slack, and what communication you want to do in your live video chat meetings. So wherever you can, sort of separate those out. So number one, you're not duplicating information. And number two, you're easing that sort of emergent sense of, I have to respond to everything immediately, or my inbox is full of 1,000 emails. Maybe even think about ways you can mark your Slack messages or your emails for what needs an urgent reply and what can wait, and just really help people organize their time with that influx of communication. Next, provide the tools and training. So we may be providing a lot of new digital tools with this transition. Make sure that you're also providing your team with videos of how to use it, webinars like this one with ideas of how to make it, maximize it or capitalize on it. And then training as well, and let those training and learning tasks be a work task for this transition period. Give the team time to get to know these new tools so they can use them effectively. And finally, maintain the human connection. You know, one of the things frevvo is doing that is so fun is a couple times a week we have a Zoom lunch meeting. So we all put our webcams on and we chit chat about things that aren't work, and we all eat together. And it really helps maintain those interpersonal relationships during this time of social distancing. So a couple more resources for you. I showed you just briefly our support forum. So support.frevvo.com has lots of articles about new features, hot tips, cool form and workflow templates that we're publishing on a regular basis. And it also has a question and answer portal for you as well. We also have our documentation. So this documentation is designed to for both the new designer who needs step-by-step assistance, you know, to learn how to use the product, but it also has more technical documentation for experienced users looking for sophisticated customization. We also have on our website some short videos. Most of these are less than 10 minutes, quick demos of how to use things like our visual rule builder to customize your logic, or our PDF mapping to do things like those IRS forms. And then we also actually have our webinars. One of these is the webinar, there we go. So our upcoming webinars, you can sign up for a live one like you did today, or you can look at videos of past ones. So if you really wanted to dive into PDF mapping or integrating with your database, these webinars are a great place to start. And then finally, we have our client services team. So if you want help automating a process or you know, customizing one of these templates, please reach out to us. We are here to help, and especially let us know if you have a real emergent form or workflow need because of the COVID-19 response. Let us know that so that we can triage and bump it to the top of the queue for you. All right, so Ashish, did we have any questions?
Yes, we have a few questions that I'll ask you. So the first question is pretty straightforward. Can I install and try this out on site?
Yes, absolutely. We can definitely do that. In fact, lots of customers already use frevvo on site, and you can download a free trial license to use this on site for 30 days free of charge. And of course, if you need an extension to that due to COVID-19, just reach out to our team and we can work with you.
Great. The next question is, what's the price?
So the pricing information can be found on our website, but we also, I'm just going to point you to a page on our website. Any place at the top of our website, you can see Stay Connected with No Cost Solutions. This is going to share with you information about our COVID-19 response, and also what we might be able to do to help you with getting started with frevvo if you need to do that quickly.
Okay. We have, so the next question is about security. We have data protection requirements. Can you describe, you talk a little bit about security?
Sure, absolutely. So dozens of customers are already using our security managers and also our access control to ensure that you know, security is your top priority. And our documentation is a great resource for that. So if you're looking to integrate with a single sign-on, you can look at our security manager documentation. And if you're looking to control access to form and workflow data, you can look here at access control.
Great.
But digital forms are typically.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think you also want to go on our website. There is a cloud security link. Maybe you want to just point to that.
Yeah, I'll just add also, while Megan is bringing that up, this is Donna, that our cloud is hosted at Amazon Web Services. So Megan, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see on the right-hand side, there's a link. Nope, scroll all the way down. Yeah. You'll see there's a link at the bottom of the web page for security.
Yeah.
There you go. So you can read about all of the security and controls that we have in place at Amazon Web Services. You can provide this to your security team, but we do everything is secure in transit and at rest, and all of our backups are encrypted also. So this will be important to share with your security team.
Right.
Thank you, guys. Great.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks for that, Donna. The next question is, what does tenant mean?
Oh, that's an excellent question. So your tenant is basically your instance of frevvo. So if you're on the cloud, you typically have a tenant for your company. And then within your tenant is where you'll set up the different users that are going to have access to frevvo, and also your projects to organize the different forms and workflows that you create.
So it's basically similar to a domain name, your domain name in frevvo.
Exactly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, can we integrate with DB2 or progress databases?
So the database integration that is available is all listed here in our integration database connector section. So I would definitely recommend taking a look at this to make sure that your system meets the requirements. And then, of course, reach out to our team if you want to discuss your individual use case. But yes, we have dozens of customers integrating with different databases, and we can usually support you.
Right. Essentially, most SQL databases should work, and both of those are SQL databases. Great. The next question, second last question is, do you offer remote training, and what is the cost of that?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have several different training options. So if you check out our website under resources training, you'll see some of the different options that we have. Now, we do offer every month 2-hour mini training sessions, and these right now are free of charge. We also have new user training and advanced user training that go a little bit more in depth into the product, and you can get those prices by just reaching out to our team.
All right, great, fantastic. And the last question is, can someone sign like a squiggly on the phone? I think like a squiggly is what they mean.
A squiggly, yes, absolutely. Yeah. The remote, or sorry, not remote, mobile enabled feature is one of the great features about frevvo. So if a user is on their phone, they can absolutely just sign with a squiggle on their phone using their finger.
Okay. Great. That's all there is in terms of questions. So thanks, Megan. And
fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for attending. And this recording will go up on our website soon. So if you want to take a look at it, keep an eye on that.
Great. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Megan. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.